Hey guys, welcome to the Centre Bounce. Today we have an incredible episode for all of you wonderful people out there to see. We've got the one and only JP, winner of the 2022 Supercoach season. Big J, we've got an incredible guest on. Can you believe it? He's right there on the screen.
Oh man, I'm like, the guy that dethroned Abdul. Hands off, congratulations. Came in the last week and two of Supercoach. Boy, oh boy, it's a bit of
under the rug.
a wild ride. Hey, JP.
Absolutely. Sort of came from nowhere. I knew I was thereabouts, but yeah, just got there in the end and was like, yeah, absolutely amazing.
When did it get real? When did you find that, oh my God, there actually is a genuine chance here that I'm going to catch up to him?
I sent a text message to a mate at the end of April saying, I reckon I can win Supercoach this year. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I knew when he was in trouble with trades and sort of a month out or 5 weeks out, I was really close.
I guess kind of before we get started with the formalities today, do you want to kind of explain to people like how long you've been playing Supercoach, what team you go for, that kind of thing?
I can. I go for the magical Carlton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great. Hopefully this year they can actually do something. I drowned my sorrows a little bit with a Collingwood game in round 23, but I won 50 grand the same day, which made it a little bit more bearable.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. I think I've played every season of Supercoach so far. I actually used to do the newspaper cutout one, and you'd mail it in. I remember playing, picking players like Michael Sexton, and so you're talking 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, I've always loved it, really. I do as much fantasy stuff as possible.
So what other kind of formats do you do? Obviously AFL, do you do like basketball as well and EPL, that kind of thing?
I do an NBA one. Sometimes I do EPL, and I do the BBL one.
Cool.
So with that, yes, Carlton really let you down and you were 50K rich. I hope not too much of that 50K went into booze on that day. Hopefully there was a lot better investments to come with that 50K.
I had a couple, but I didn't overdo it.
That's bad. Awesome. And you think that Carlton are a genuine? I think a lot of people reckon Carlton are a genuine shot to surely make the 8 this year. Are you looking for top 8 finish, or are you hoping top 6, top 4?
They've got the list to do it, just whether they can get it together. Realistically, with what they've got, they should be pushing top 4 into a prelim, hopefully, but that's Carlton. So we haven't had a winning culture for a while, so just hopefully we can get there.
Yeah, it's good kind of having Voss move across and bring some of the things that obviously he did well at Brisbane. And then during his time coaching as well, kind of change of culture, that kind of thing, like you were saying, right?
Yeah, I really like him in there. He's just a hard edge and, won't take crap and likes a contested ball. And I think we've been a bit soft and on the outside sometimes. So get in and get immersed. He's won grand finals and very good player.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got the tough in and under guys to help Cripper out now. Like a lot was left on Cripper's shoulders, but Georgie Hewitt was a massive acquisition for you guys. I remember when that move came across, I don't think it got enough attention, the attention that it deserved. I thought that was definitely one of the biggest moves. And for Supercoach as well, for his price, I know there were people that were a bit awkward price, but it just screamed value, and what he's given you guys has been immense. He's also up for a big year this year, I reckon.
It's exactly what we needed in there, really. Just another, blue collar, in and under, hard worker. But yeah, him last year was just amazing to come in and just do what he did straight up. And Chera.
Did you end up starting him last year, or were you one of the people that brought him in like once the 100 started rolling?
No, I started him straight away. He was one of my first pick players. I was a big fan of him before he came across, so straight onto that one.
Yeah, that's cool.
And Chera, you probably were thinking maybe not there, the role, you think?
He's not a Supercoach player for me, but I'm pretty happy having him at Carlton.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess we'll talk a little bit more about Supercoach. So Congrats again on finishing Supercoach. I mean, well, not finishing, I guess kind of your number one. So you finished, right? You're like, you've done the speed run, you've won the game, that's it.
Yep. We formed a league about 10 years ago called Beat the Elite, and someone finally did it. So, we've had some really good players in there, high place getters over the years, and we got there. So I'll put the trophy up in the background for you to have a look at today.
Is it heavy? It looks
weighs
heavy.
About 15 kilos.
Wow. All right. Now that's pretty good.
I got presented the trophy at the G, and my car was parked about 2.5 k's away, so I had to walk with it right through Richmond, and I was sitting in it when I needed a rest.
Yeah. Stop over for a beer, that kind of thing, hey?
Yeah, for sure.
So obviously you won last year. What was kind of your highest ranking outside of 2022? You've been playing Supercoach for a while. Have you had a top 10 before, top 100, that kind of thing?
I haven't had a top 10. I've had a 40-odd, a 90-odd. I got down to 36 in 2021 and then ran out of trades. I've got there a few times. I think I was down to 11th years ago when Phil Walsh was unfortunately did his thing, and that game was called off, and that was about the end of that season.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got up there, but never quite there.
And the thing that's held you back each time is the lack of trades, is it? Like you've always had this aggressive go full steam ahead things, because from what I can tell, that the general consensus is I ran into trades and stuff. So you've always seemed to be a very aggressive player, huh?
Yeah, you've got to have a crack at it. I think, to get in that position, you've got to be aggressive to get up there and, hope a few things go your way and end up there and just hold your position. I think some people hold back a little bit and go, oh, I might sneak up there, and, they'll sit around 10 or 15 and just don't quite get there. You're only a good chance of being up there once or twice in your life, so smash it out while you can.
Yeah, that's exactly
right. And a lot of it is about taking advantage of players kind of at the right opportune time. I know Joe and I jumped on Himmelberg there last year, and then Zach Merritt obviously came in pretty cheap as well towards the end. A lot of it's a bit kind of identifying opportunities throughout the year.
You can see players when they hit form, or they get a good matchup or a good run. It's times to pick players like that. Darcy Cameron was on one last year, and James Sicily as well. Just got to get them at the right time before they hit their straps and go
gangbusters.
Yeah,
that's what I was worried about with Darcy Cameron. I'm like, oh, Darcy Cameron, he's looking all right, but is he going to be able to maintain it? And so that was one that got away for me. I was very annoyed about Darcy Cameron, but it's like even this year coming up, there's a bunch of players that you think they're going to have the role, and if they can commit to that role, they're going to do really well and outperform their price. It's just like, how early can you look into it? Do you give them a week? Do you give them a couple of weeks to nail down to see if they've got their role? Or do you sort of like, being aggressive, you just want to get the jump in?
A lot of value, isn't there? I'm generally happy to either start them or bring them in after a couple of weeks if you've identified the role that they're going to play is up to it. But yeah, you just got to go for it, really. Lots of players in the 2s and 300s that I could go for straight up.
Yeah, especially this year, kind of, we've talked a lot off air and on air about the value through the midfield. Do you feel like maybe you can get sucked in a little bit into picking that and forego kind of the structure that you wanted to start the season with, picking 5 or 6 guys? I've seen some teams that run, one premium and then a bunch of guys and then Ashcroft.
The only problem is you're losing a uber primo in the midfield. You're cutting out a few of them. It's okay in the back line and forward line where we've done it years past, where you get Cogs and Brody and that at 250k, because you're only cutting out a 500 player. But if you're cutting out an Oliver or a Laird, you might pay for him a long run. So I think it's just about balancing it, really. I'm generally a guns and rookies player, like I have been throughout the years, but I started about 5 last year mid prices. And it worked. Like, not all of them worked. I started like Mitch McGovern and some absolute buds. But, you still got there. As long as half of them go, you're good to go, really.
Yeah. And like you said at the start, be aggressive. And if a player doesn't work out with the boosts and with the more trades now, you can always sideways to someone else that's doing better, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just have players in mind that you wouldn't mind trading to. As long as you've got a few ideas where you can go, you can generally get away with it.
And historically, it's tended to be more favorable for guns and rookies. But it just feels like the last couple of years, the game has sort of shifted. And before, it was like really, you'd be a bit nervous getting a mid-pricer. But now it just seems like, for some reason, these last couple of years, it's like, oh, you have a good chance of them working out. I mean, you also had like Zeeble and Hall and Impey the year before, right? That all of them came on and were doing really well. It's almost like, yeah, go for it. You're likely for it to work.
Right in that range, aren't they?
Mm.
I think I'm almost more comfortable picking a mid-pricer now than a primo. Like I put a lot of time looking into my primos rather than looking at, Callahan or Hopper or someone. I'm just, happy to lock them straight in, really.
Yeah, it really feels that way, doesn't it? Because like we were saying, there's a lot of options around that value price, but sometimes the mid prices are the set players. And like you're saying, the premiums are the ones that you really have to be careful of. People picked Lockie Neal last year or the year before when he was, that top dollar price and ended up really struggling. Same with some people last year, these premiums that were 650, 700K that kind of dropped way down in price that people could get a lot cheaper. Are you a big kind of value person in that premium role, or would you rather have your set and forget guys, your Oliver Laird, and then not many guys at that like 550K range?
I generally go primo, but when I'm picking those players, I pick them to finish the year. So, you've got 11 primos to start the year. You basically want to hold them till the end. I think I held 7 players last year in saying that. You'd prefer a few more, but you want to take those players, but you've got to take a risk. You need 3 or 4 options for a captain or vice captain every week, realistically, in case someone goes down with an injury. So you need the 4 top liners, and then I'm happy to go down the lines a little bit. A Tom Green or an LDU, or there's still plenty of options there.
So you're saying kind of like an Oliver Laird and then like an LDU at M3, or is that too light in the midfield?
I think it's manageable. I think I've got Laird and Bond at the moment, and then down to Green at 3, possibly. Might change 100 times.
Yeah.
My structure's far from set, so.
Yeah, no, definitely. Are you someone who will make their team kind of when Supercoach opens in December, or are you someone who kind of likes to enjoy the preseason games, kind of get rid of all that noise about how good a player is training in January compared to now, and make your team a couple of weeks before the game actually starts?
I was a little bit concerned last year if we were going to have a tie result, because apparently the first register gets the win, because generally I'm known to open up at about the end of Feb, early March. Like this year I felt, obliged to do it just because I was writing a few articles and bits and bobs. But yeah, I'm generally watch the preseason games and then do a team. You can think too much about it. You can overdo it.
For sure. But also at the same time, you can have people that maybe might not do any thinking whatsoever. They might just rock up, watch the preseason game and be like, oh boy, this guy's a must-have. Unbelievable. How much do you go? How much do you let the pracky games sway you? Is it like overwhelmingly something that you look at, or do you have a lot of reading into the reports? You know what I mean? Like, and forecasting what sort of role they're going to have later on in the year. Because I know a lot of people like the Phantom was all over Goulden, right? He was all over him. It was his boy. He's claimed him. We understand that. But you can't tell me that all the people jumping on Goulden now are because they love and respect the Phantom, as they should. But I think a lot of them were swayed by that last game. Do you think there's too much looking into that?
Oh, you're going to bang out 190. You're going to do pretty well. But he did pretty well in the practice match. He started off last year on the 130s. There's plenty to like with Goulden. And, he uses the ball magnificently. He's got a good role. Just got to get that time through the mid. So I use the preseason games to see what roles they're playing. That certainly helps shape my team, but not their scores. I'm not too phased as long as they're in there and doing what they need to do, playing that role. Like with a Goulden, Callum Mills wasn't playing, so you've got to take that into effect. I'm not expecting him to play huge numbers, but he can score points pretty heavily. reminds me of Petrarca in his breakout year. He came out and banged out a massive score. He was playing predominantly forward and then jumped into the midfield a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. Is there an example of a player who you were keen on kind of at the start of this, start of Supercoach opening that now you're not after seeing them in the preseason games?
I really liked Parrish, but he disappointed me a little bit. I just didn't really like his role and didn't seem to be getting the mid-time, and I thought Setterfield took a bit of time out of him as well. So
Yeah,
he's one player that I really like the look of. I was pretty concerned with Nick Dacos, and I was hoping everyone in the world was going to pick him because I thought he was going to get tagged at some stage, but he's gone a week early on him.
Yeah. I've heard some other people say similar things as well. It's just like,
Yep.
man, let people take the traps. Similar with
Exactly.
Darcy Cameron as well. Kind of people didn't realise how influential Mason Cox was going to be on his scoring, and then coming in, they've all been saved.
Yeah, you've got that, John. I still don't mind Darcy Cameron, to be perfectly honest. I think he'll score, might average 90 or something, which is okay at his price. Just have that DPP. But, there's definitely some traps in the preseason, and we'll find out again soon. We've looked at history of players scoring massive in the preseason in years gone by, and they do nothing when it comes to a real season.
Exactly. And now you mentioned DPP. This could be probably the biggest year where DPP changes are going to be really game changers. When you're looking at these preseason games and you're looking at Maxi Gorn spending only 50% in the CBAs, for example, right? Like, can you imagine a Maxi Gorn in the forward line? Like, Petrarca in the forward line, all of these other, mids that could end up there if Darcy ends up sharing enough with Jackson over time, as unlikely as that is. But you could end up with all of these primo mids and rucks all of a sudden in the forward line.
Rucks up forward. It's a game changer for sure. Maxi Gorn found himself in my team about halfway through the practice match on Sunday. Not sure if I'll roll with him or what I'll do, but him up forward as a DPP is a very attractive target.
So I've got two questions for you then, just to do with DPP. So first off, how has DPP kind of shaped the way that you are going to be picking your forward line this year? And as you've just mentioned about Max Gawn, would you rather start these players knowing that they'll probably get DPP in a different position, or wait for them to get DPP and then bring them in?
I think if you're bringing in Max Gawn, you're starting him to finish him. So I'm happy to go with him. Another one I have had in my team last week was Lockie Whitfield. Didn't score as heavily on the weekend, but he'll be a defender by round 6, and he's probably going to finish in your top 10 defenders. And he's underpriced at 470 odd.
Would you rather start these players or wait for them to get DPP and then bring them in?
I'll probably start one of the two, I dare say. Maybe two, maybe none. Yeah, I'm happy to start them.
There's no bad memories. Like, I know there's a lot of people that obviously respect Whitfield as a player. And when you look at all of the logic and you look at, just objectively speaking, there's nothing wrong with this pick. Like, so many people are so averse to picking Kelly from the Giants as well, simply because of bad history. There you go. You're one of them. Burn man. That's it. Houston, burn man.
Yep.
Like, you just refuse them. That's it. I'm not. Never again. That never again list. How important is it to stick to your never again list?
Yeah, I'm pretty strong on the never again list. I didn't have Whitfield during the last couple of years, so he's never really burnt me. He went to my school as well, so I've got to have a bit of love. Hopefully he's got his body right. But I've definitely got players on my never again list.
Oh, that's funny. No, I haven't played the game long enough to have a never again list. I did start Whitfield last year, and he burnt me, unfortunately. But I also started Ridley, and he also burnt me. So that was a tough line to start with. I love my boy Rids. He's my boy, but he burnt me.
I didn't have him last year either. So I had him a good year, but not last year. So yeah, I'm happy with him too. He looks like he's going to have a decent role again.
Yeah,
I got him in my side personally this year. Yep. Hopefully it doesn't burn me again, but I love him too much to fade him. It's like a child, like your child will disappoint you, but You got to come back to him. It's all right. I still love him. I've got him in my side this year.
Yeah, I've got him. I think my boy's got him too. So if what was his name? Ben Rutten was still coach, I wouldn't be taking him. But with a new coach in there and what looks like new roles for a couple of the guys and Redmond a bit further upfield, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah. When picking your players for your team, are you swayed at all by kind of the ownership percentage, or are you more, hey, I like this guy, I'm going to bring them in? I know we were talking about Dacos and a few of the other players who, kind of had high ownership. How does that kind of affect your team and affect your decisions?
To be honest, in past years, I don't really look at ownership or Twitter or read a lot of people's stories or things on games. So I pretty much like to pick my own team, but because I've had a bit more pressure this year, I've looked in. It's like there's a lot of people on these, a lot of cookie-cutter teams. I'll pick a few pods for sure, but I'm also going to stick with tried and trusted players too.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I've heard a lot of people kind of say, well, I'm 50-50 on a player, but if I don't start them and they'll go big, I'll get punished for it. Do you kind of feel that way, or you do kind of go with your gut and then take it?
I don't care about that at all. Yeah, purely gut on that one. I'm not phased. I'm happy for 70% of people to be wrong, unless it's me. And then I'll just bring them in at some stage.
Yeah, definitely.
You like a pod? Can I offer you one Will Setterfield, perhaps? We were talking about the coach, new role. You mentioned him before with his relationship with Parrish. It's, I don't know. He's high on my radar.
I haven't thought about Will Setterfield at all until about lunchtime today. And I was just sitting there thinking, I used to watch him underage. I really wanted him at Carlton the year we drafted. And he went, we matched the bid and he went early. And when he came to Carlton, he's fantastic. We just had too many on-ballers, too many, in and under players, and he never really got that. He showed glimpses, and I think he averaged about 91 year. He can do it. I'd like to, but he's left Carlton now. I've just, we don't bond as much anymore.
Fair enough.
But he's every chance coming in. I just don't know who you take out for him.
Yeah, the price is a bit awkward as well, right? Like under 350, you can kind of count them as being stepping stones, but after that, it's like you're almost a premium scorer.
He could very easily go 105, I think. He could, pretty easily be a Will Brodie for the year. If he was a forward, I'd take him for sure.
Right, yeah. Because there's so many mid prices in the midfield. It's like, God damn, you got him, you've got Warple, you got Nazaya, you've got Callahan, and then you've got obviously the gun
Sheed
rookies.
And Hopper as well.
Sheed and Hopper. Oh, how could I forget these guys as well? Exactly. There's too many. You can run a whole midfield of these guys.
Yeah, you can only, and then you got McKenzie and Ashcroft and, Will Phillips and all that. How many can you fill in and still get your 3 or 4 primos in?
Yeah. I guess kind of going at the start, we were talking about how, you've been playing Supercoach for such a long time. When playing now versus back then, is there any kind of rules that you brought with you throughout the years, that kind of thing? Or, hey, I like this type of particular player during the preseason, that kind of thing that you can share with us today?
I do have a no idiots policy, which I let James Sicily through. He's the only one allowed. I've avoided, types of, like I really wanted Jordan to go at some stage last year, and then bits and pieces happen, and it's, people get suspended and do silly things. So that's one. I like a robust player, so someone, that can play through injury and generally tends to play as many games as possible throughout the year. And another thing I'll look at is I want someone that's handled a tag before. So someone that's been in the comp for, 3, 4, 5 years if you're paying premium dollars, that can handle a tag. Because, you got players like Angus Brayshaw and what's his name? Andrew Brayshaw.
Andy.
LDU, Warner, Noah Anderson. They're all going to start getting attention. How do they handle it? Is it worth paying $550 for that when you can get tried and trusted for $600?
Dacos as well. Probably
Yep.
never handled a tag before, so that's
Yep.
a more relevant one for this year. But you say you want no idiot policy, but you had Bruce in your side. You got this guy doing bloody suplexes in the preseason. What the hell's going on over there?
He was too good a value last year. He was suspended for round 1 last year. I knew no one would have him, so I just put him at R3. And I knew he was going to, he's going to bump out hundreds. So just, if I could get 6 or 7 weeks out of him, get him up to whatever he got to, it's a win-win. If he failed and got suspended a couple of times, cut your losses, you just downgrade to your loophole and you're good to go and you've got $100,000 in the bank. So I thought it was too good to miss out on that one.
Nah, fair enough. With your ruck line in general, are you someone who will go for value, or are you someone who kind of will generally? You spoke about Bruce at R3, but R1, R2, are you someone who will go set and forget type, or someone say like a Lycett or a Draper this year that maybe they'll be able to break out, or is it structure based really?
Don't really think I've done set and forget the last couple of years, 3 or 4 years. I started Maxi Gawn, Witts and Bruce last year, and I actually traded Max Gawn out after round 2 because I saw Brucey doing well enough and thought I'd cash in. That's where I got Sicily in and made other moves. So, I think there's good value to be made in the rucks, and someone that's not a ruckman or there's not a backup ruckman, it's a good way to get you 100 points.
Yeah, definitely. And it's kind of jumping on the opportunities as well.
Yeah.
Jumping on the opportunities when they come.
Yeah, for sure. It's a much safer role than, a key position player, unless they're an on-baller and getting 70% centre bounces, like a ruckman's going to get good time in there regardless.
Yeah. When it comes to like a ruckman, I know there was a lot of people, I love Sammy Draper more than the next guy, right? Big Sammy is my man. And all this talk about people saying that he's going to be breaking out this year because Max Gawn in his 4th year broke out. Is that sort of analysis? Is there a place for that sort of analysis, do you think? Or is it really more important to really look at the player themselves and try and see where the extra avenue for the extra points are going to come from?
I really like Draper, and I think he's every chance of going, but I just don't know how safe he is. He could easily just bang out another 70 or 80 a year. He could bang out 110. He looks like he's got that development in him, just not sure when it goes. So probably go on the safer side of things this year. But if he fires early, I could look at it. If I picked Gawn or picked Witts and they both failed early and Draper banged out 2 120s, happily put him in.
Fair enough.
And he's got a good celebration too. So
with the big hair.
Fantastic. That goal of the year. Well, did he get goal of the year? He deserved it.
He did. Yeah, he did. I lost my shit. Excuse my French. It was amazing. It was just taken out of the ruck. He enticed him. He sliced him. He diced him. I was up and about.
I lost my shit too. Yeah.
I didn't have much to celebrate last year, being an Essendon supporter, but that was probably the highlight.
Big moment
of the year.
How do you feel the Gawn Grundy combination is going to work out? Do you think it's going to be Supercoach relevant this year, or kind of just Melbourne are bolstering their midfield and making their team better?
I think it's more Melbourne bolstering their midfield, really. Like when they lose one player, they've got another like-for-like replacement straight up. So they've got a bit of affordability. I think they'll put, both of them at forward a fair chunk of a game rather than rotating them off the field. And I think you'll also find that they camp in the hole at centre-half back if the other one's up. So it's just getting that big player and trying to outsize teams, make mismatches and, get goals. I think as a Melbourne should do well with it for the year. I like it Supercoach-wise. I think Gawn probably up in the air about Grundy. Just, he hasn't turned it on the last couple of years, but we know he can do it, but we know what Gawn can do up forward. Grundy, doesn't go at a goal a game or anything over his career, so jury's out there.
That's correct. And you just feel like it just adds so much structure and potency to Melbourne, because a lot of times you found that their forward line just wasn't capable of
Yep.
converting or making the most of their midfield dominance. Like I keep thinking back to the Queen's birthday loss to Collingwood, where they completely dominated the midfield. They had all the clearances, all the inside 50s, but it just kept bouncing back out of there. They've got to be up there for the chance to win the flag. I think they're one of the few teams that can challenge, teams like the Bulldogs and Brisbane that have such offensive juggernauts in their forward line because they're so defensively sound. But now they've also added this bow to the forward line.
Yeah.
Do you reckon, they're going to be top 4 this year?
I reckon they're as good a chance to win as anyone, to be honest. I could quite easily see, Gawn going at 40, 50 goals for the year if he's getting enough time up there. Getting DPP.
Yeah.
Be handy.
That will be very good for all of us.
How many players? So obviously this preseason we've spoken a lot on the channel about kind of who we've conned as being the awesome foursome. So Dunkley, Cogs, Taranto, and Rosie in that forward line.
Yep.
With DPP changes coming in, how many of these players are you starting this year? Like guys you're hoping will be keepers in the forward line for the whole year? Or are you more Bruin types and then upgrade to DPP players as they go?
No, I've got Taranto, Rosie, and Dunkley in there at present.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sold on the durability of Caniglio.
Mm-hmm.
He misses games, and I think he's pretty close to his value already. So I think I'll miss that one. He could quite easily go at 110, but I don't think he's going to, go gangbusters through the roof points-wise. I think Taranto is probably going to hover around the 100, 95 to 105 for the year as well.
Mm-hmm.
The Rosie roller coaster. Who knows what could happen there? He could average 130. He could have quite a few 50 games again. I really liked Butters. I just don't know about his role.
Same.
You've got Jason Horne-Francis in there. Just too many unknowns at Port. I think they'll give it to Rosie because he's proven. But I just can't pick the other ones at present.
Like, it's so bizarre that you have these premium players in the forward line, but you just don't have a lot of confidence in them. It's almost like we're holding on to them now in the hope that they're able to score well enough for the time being until we get all of the amazing DPP players to come into play, like your Gorns and your Petrarcas and things like that.
It's almost like a 500 grand set and forget thing these days. I think Rosie and Taranto, I just want them to do their thing, average their 100, and just I'll forget about them and let them do it.
Yeah, for sure. The same thing with the back line.
No, there's a bit of. I enjoyed the back line. A bit going on. Lots to like down there. You could easily pick Sinclair, Sicily, Stewart, Doc, even Bailey Dale, Adam Sard last year without Williams. There's a lot to like down there.
Cool.
Are there any guys we've spoken about Dacos and Ridley a little bit. Are there any guys around that 500K mark in the back line you're looking at? Maybe someone like an Isaac Cumming?
I was really keen on Young, but just haven't seen enough throughout the preseason. Just sort of disappeared a little bit into his shell. And I do like Isaac. What did you say, sorry?
Because it was so surprising. All of the talk, all of the hype was that Young is taking these big steps into really taking the game to this next level, the kick-ins and all of this.
Took all those intercept marks last year, and he's just, it'll probably happen. It just might take him 10 weeks to do it. He might be an upgrade target if he starts slowly.
Yeah, definitely.
No complaints for
about Isaac Cumming?
Isaac Cumming, well, there's a hole there that Himmelberg's left, and I think Cummings every chance of, taking those intercept marks and taking that role. Just depends how he goes with Whitfield down there and Lockie Ash as well. I think it's a little bit up in the air. I'd say Whitfield's got his role. Just not sure what's going to happen with all the other ones at the moment. Then Perryman and other guys going through.
Because not a new coach, new system. Do you is that a really massive question mark for you? Like, if you're coming in and you're trying to select players for your team, it's like, they got a new coach. Who knows how they're going to play properly together and stuff? Is that a big question mark for you?
It is a big question mark, but even in the 2 practice matches, you've seen that they're going to go to a bit more traditional and get rid of the crazy game style that they've been playing. the list they've had, they really should have been pushing for flags, and then it's Mickey Mouse up there sometimes. So,
no, definitely true. The magic number this year has kind of been talked about as one of the big factors. Do you feel like it's going to have a massive impact? And are you kind of planning on, when you make your starting team, to grab a lot of these, more expensive premiums at a much cheaper price kind of halfway through the season?
I always pick a couple of fallen primos.
Mm-hmm.
I actually picked up Ollie Wines really early last year. I just saw value there and just wanted some players, scoring. I thought even if I got 95 to 100 out of him, but he ended up doing well, especially during finals. You get your players. Zach Merritt always tends to drop off. You're always going to get a couple of gems around 5 to 550 at some stage during the year. So I like to keep some mid space there, and then you can pick who's firing. But yeah, fallen primos are great.
Do you use kind of historically players, some like your Olivers and Laird will stay around their kind of price, whereas some players will drop down, maybe 100K, they're priced at 650 down to 550 at some point. Do you use that when picking your team, saying like, well, I'll start the guys that will stay around the same price and look to upgrade into the other ones early on?
I generally tend to somewhat, but I also want to get the scores on the board and have your vice captain options on field. I've only currently got one of Laird and Oliver. I think there's plenty of value there. And they do drop somewhat, but, if you're picking them as a keeper, they're a keeper for you. So I'm not too phased as long as you're getting close to what you want out of them.
Exactly. And I know during the last year, there was a week where I could have decided to get Clayton Oliver in or someone else and then aim to get him in the following week.
Yeah.
And I decided to fade him. I decided to wait a week on Clayton Oliver because his break even was like 170 or something. It's all right.
That's when he got it, isn't he? Yeah.
And that's when he got it. It's just like you can't mess around. Yeah, exactly. You can't mess with these guys. They're capable of absolutely smashing it. You can't make these clever plans. It's like they're the uber primos for a reason. As soon as you can get them in, the better, right?
If you desperately want them, you get them. Yeah, I didn't start Laird or Oliver last year, but I got them both within the first 8 weeks, I think, when I mixed around, with my structure of Gorn. So, yeah, you need them. You need a couple of good ones up there to start with for sure.
Now, there was another question that I've got is how significant, and I think it is pretty significant, but I wanted to get it from you. How significant is the change to the sub rule? Because it was medical sub, and now it's just tactical sub. You can activate it whenever. Are we going to see it a lot this year? Be activated in every game?
Yeah, you will for sure. I generally like to pick a few more expensive rookies than a lot of other people. I like to take the value. I want bums on seats during buys, so I'll generally have as much value as I can there. You're gonna certainly have some sub risks. Players like Ollie Hollands or Lockie Cowan or Sing Cotter at Carlton are prime examples of that. So it probably steers you away a little bit from first year players, especially lower draft picks. You're probably safe with your Philippou or a Sheasel, etc. But yeah, you never know what's going to happen now.
Yeah, definitely. There's always that worry that halfway through a game, your rookie's kind of struggling. They're puffing and puffing, and then you end up with a 20 kind of on your bench, but worse on your field, right?
Oh, exactly. Like that's what concerns me about your Draper type, or Draper and Phillips are playing together, and Draper's having a mare. They might sub him off at half time. Then you're losing 40 grand value as well. Especially, rucks are going to be susceptible. Cameron could get subbed if Cox is playing a blinder and they want to go faster.
Exactly. And that's why I think there's a lot of teams as well that are playing 2 rucks. Obviously, we've spoken about Gaundy, we've spoken about Shrek and, Darcy and Jackson. It could be a situation where Draper's playing with Phillips or with Brian. I suppose that just sort of goes to show how important you think it is for a ruckman to be solo rucking. Are they like, your Marshalls, for example, who we've seen in the 2 Pracky games, he's been solo rucking, and you've got Wits, of course. do you want to pay up extra? Like, for example, for a guy like Witts compared to a guy like Darcy, would you be happier to pay that extra difference? You don't think he has the ceiling that a guy like Darcy has, but he's going to be solo ruck, and that's got to amount to something, right?
Yeah, if Witts is averaging 110 again and Darcy's averaging 100 last year and up and down like a yo-yo, I'd take Witts every day. Outside of Gawn, I think you'd want that generally with most players. I'm not too fussed about Gawn and Grundy, but anywhere else you want the primary ruck. So even I think Riley O'Brien could be a good pick for that reason. He's got a few rucks floating around, but he's going to get most of the minutes.
Yeah, definitely true.
And there was that McAndrew guy that everyone got really excited about. Some people got really excited about Radaglia at R2, perhaps.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of shenanigans happening with that ruck line. There was a time where a lot of people were having headaches. What the hell do we do here? But
it's okay if you've got Cameron in the forward line, but yeah, I couldn't risk it. Radaglia maybe. You know, he's quite an athlete. I could see him maybe doing a Liam Jones from 5 years ago in defence. You know, being that big as that player. But you're not going to get your hundreds out of him. So, and McAndrew's averaged 22 in the VFL last year. That's a wide berth.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, people can get sucked into some of these hype players. Obviously, if both of them didn't really fail in the preseason games, we might have seen a few teams running Radaglia R1 and then McAndrew R2. It's like, I've seen it. We did a couple of team reviews on him. I'm just like, mate, you're in trouble.
Yeah. I was happy to do it last year, you know, when Prusy was going well and I had Wicks at 380. It worked because you can see it's going to work, but I'd never start it like that. It's a very big risk and an easy way to derail your season quickly.
Yeah. How do you come back from that? Seriously, how would you come back from starting these two? Like, there's no salvaging. You have to get rid of primos in the mids or something to try and salvage that in the ruck.
Yeah,
like
you got to sell an Oliver or someone good straight up to make up for it.
Yeah, that's just crazy talk. Now, I know we're talking about Radaglia, and you know he's definitely capable with this new role as an interceptor key defender. How do you think that would play out for a guy like, you know, for Stewart, for example? Like, does that mean that Stewart now doesn't have to do a lot of defending? He can really just sag off, be completely unaccountable. He's got SDK and Radaglia doing all the defending. He can just, you know, be the distributor.
He's been an absolute weapon for the last few years, but I'm a little bit apprehensive about what his role is going to be with those extra guys down there now. It's probably, I'd really like to start him and have in the past, but he's not there at present. So just up in the air until you see a bit more of his role. And you know what Scotty can do down there. He does some strange stuff. So, you know, jury's out on Bose, Bruin, you know, all of them.
Exactly. Bruin kind of came out of nowhere for me, at least. Kind of this kid who came across from GWS who didn't really show much over there to come out and score like a 110 and now forced himself into almost everyone's Supercoach teams. It's just like,
he was a ripping junior, but yeah, it's hard to tell so far.
I'm so pissed. Why did Geelong keep doing this? Like, when's it going to stop? Like, enough. You're good. We get it. Yeah, best run organization in football. We get it. All right, fine. Now, can you please go to sleep for a bit and let other teams have a chance? My God.
It doesn't really help when Geelong Falcons are smashing out all good players too. You know, a lot of players play down there and they want to come back there and they've got a good program down there. So,
yeah. Live in the beach towns and then come to work in Geelong or in Melbourne.
Come back and surf and go and do that stuff. Yeah.
Definitely.
And take advantage of a couple of expansion teams like GWS and Gold Coast who have salary cap issues and they just send off Bose and pick number 7 as well. Yes, get better. Yes. It's like, what the hell? Like, how are you a premiership winning team that is older than the bloody retirement village down the street, and yet coming off the grand final win, they've rejuvenated their list and they're now as good as ever.
They've still got all those oldies. Hopefully they succumb at some stage.
Yeah. We're going to start wrapping up soon. Do you have like 2 or 3 Supercoach locks that you're like, you must pick these players this year?
It's really open.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dunkley's my only real lock at this stage.
Okay.
I've got
not
players.
even someone like an Oliver Laird.
What did you say? Sorry.
Like someone like an Oliver Laird, you kind of have to start, or not really.
I'll be starting one of them for sure. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the 600 defenders. Like to have a bit of structure about it, and one of the big rucks as well. So it's either a Witts or a Gawn. Dunkley's in, it's a Laird or an Oliver, and then one of your big 4 defenders.
Fair enough. And
I'm not giving too much away. I want to keep a few pods. Sorry.
Wow, this is interesting. For you, a pod that is a lock, for example, that is really interesting. You don't think Marshall could be a good is a lock at R2 at least?
Oh, Marshall's as locked as they come. Sorry, yeah, Marshall and Dunkley are locked.
All right, cool. I was worried for a second there. I'm like, oh my god, Marshall's not a lock. What have I missed in my preseason analysis? What's going on?
If Marshall's not on about 95% owned, people are not doing Supercoach properly.
Correct. You can't win the 50K in round 1, but you can certainly lose it, right?
Yeah, you can.
Do you have any tips for people coming into this year? Like things to look out for, don't take too many risks, that kind of thing?
Don't get sucked in by everyone. Play your own game. Use your gut. Do your own research. I just look at stats and I watch games, basically. So I don't want to be swayed. The amount of times I've been swayed in the past and people say, oh, don't do this, don't do that, only for them to, bang out ripper scores. So just enjoy it and play it for yourself. There's no right way or wrong way. I was definitely out of the box. Not many people have traded out Max Gawn or Jack Crisp in round 2 and gone on to win. And, I did it. So just have fun and enjoy it. Pick players from your own teams. Don't take it too seriously. We don't all have to have cookie cutter team. If you want to do something different, just do it. There's so many players that are not in teams that are great options. Like, Lockie Neal's hardly touched.
Yeah.
You've got players like Will Brodie that could be fantastic this year. George Hewitt could be fantastic. Cripps isn't in teams. There's so many players. Then you could risk it. You could go a Libba. Even McRae, who's been huge for the years. I know he seems to have dropped off a little bit with tackling and centre bounces and things, but, he's still a solid player. So you don't all have to be the same to, have fun. And you've still got a good chance of winning by doing things out of the box.
Yeah, that's what Abs is doing, right? Abs has got Libba in his latest iteration of his team. Yeah, you just gotta, you love it, like putting yourself out there, going on a limb, and just backing yourself in. It just makes it so much more fun, and you did it your way. It wasn't a cookie cutter team. Like if you want to win, it's like you can't win if you have the exact same team as everybody else, right? Like you got to risk it for the biscuit.
You're scrambling against everyone else doing the same thing, and you've got to make the right move every week. Where if you're a bit different, you're making your own moves. No one's on the same page as you.
Yeah,
I got called some very interesting things for like Prusy and a few of my starting picks last year. People are going, "What are you doing?" And it's like, no, just back my gut in. I'll have a go.
It worked out.
Yep, it did.
Living proof. You don't have to follow the crowd. Obviously, you might feel safety if you're doing what everybody else is doing, but at the end of the day, safety isn't what's gonna. Not everyone win. Not everyone can come number 1. If you want to,
have fun.
Sorry. Yeah, have fun.
Win your cash league. Beat your mates from work. Just get out there and do it, and have some pods. It's a little bit boring. Come around 19. Oh, I've got 2 players different than you. There's plenty to like out there, and plenty of proven players that you can pick.
Yeah, this year's a year, isn't it? With all of the mid-price madness options, and you got a couple of rookies that are capable of pumping out massive scores. Like it just feels like this is the year where you can finally have a lot of variation. It would be a massive shame if this year you start the year with a lot of people having very similar cookie cutter teams. It just feels like a shame, like an opportunity was really missed with how many options there are out there.
Yeah, my boy put Heaney in his team yesterday. And I don't think I've ever heard anyone the whole year having Heaney in his team. And so he's all right. He's a good chance. He's not going to play as much mid-time. But, he gets those goals and he averaged 100. So why not?
Yeah, exactly. And it's Champion Dota love Heaney. You know, he gets a handball. He just get 20 points magically for this handball all of a sudden. Like, how did this happen? Like, what's going on? That's the reason why I actually train in here. Like,
he's fine when you've got him, isn't he?
Yeah,
you don't worry about laser shepherd 100%. And gets 20 points.
100%. Like that game against North Melbourne was over. They were winning. Why did he get bloody 50 points for that goal when they were already winning? Like, I'm not complaining. I owned him at the time. But like that's the sort of player that, you know, sometimes is like, you know what, stuff this. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to have Bond. I'm going to have Heaney. Champion that I love these guys. I'm going to enjoy the ride.
Yeah, exactly. Get stuck into them.
Look like you're doing something there, Big J.
Well, thanks, JP, for coming on the show and giving us your insights, and kind of congratulations again on winning last year.
Thank you very much.
You've kind of been thrown into the spotlight a little bit. Do you have any other things coming up that people should be watching out for? Interviews, that kind of thing, or kind of just laying low until the season starts?
AFL 360 next week. On the 14th, I believe.
Cool.
That'll be interesting. On the couch. Get a bit anxious that day, but yeah, have a couple of beers before and see how we go. But yeah, looking forward to that.
Nice.
Yeah, the boys look fun. It's obviously nowhere near as posh or as, you know, prestigious as it is to come onto this channel. Obviously, you know, very, very high tech setup here we got going on. But now you're gonna have a ripping time, man. Honestly, like it's recognition for good work.
Make the most of it. Exactly. It's one
it's an insane achievement.
Twice, but very unlikely. So
exactly.
make the most of it while you can.
Take it in your stride. It's something that you're going to definitely look back on in well and truly in the future and just pinch yourself like this actually happened. We're all so happy for you, man. Congratulations. We really appreciate you coming on. We're so excited to see what else has to come for you. Best of luck for the season, man. Really, really excited to see what's happening.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Not a problem.
Cheers, guys.
Remember, guys, we've got our Supercoach group that you guys can join and win some amazing prizes. We've got our AFL voucher. We've got our 2 tickets to a game, and also the Supercoach, the AFL jersey of your team that you want as well. So join up in there. We'll put the information for that in the description below. Any final words, Joe?
Yeah, please, guys, like, share, subscribe. We are pumping out a lot of content for you. The season's almost here. You know, we've got just over a week to come. So we're pumping out as much as we can for all of you. And remember, here at the Centre Bounce, we do the hard work so you don't have to. Bye for now.